Dark Encounter, directed by Carl Strathy, who seems like he was just a guy. The information that I found on him was that, yeah, him and his producer that he often works with, they made a lot of short films and they just made these two feature films, both sci-fi, pretty low budget. Yeah, the film does have a lot of like homages. It's very Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I think that's pretty evident from the trailer, where it's, yeah, lights in the sky. Whoa, aliens coming down. And yeah, it definitely has homages to that. And it knows that it wants to be a more classical, let's say like 80s sci-fi feel. And I think it pulls it off well enough, but it's still very clearly like lower budget. But I still respect that because as an aspiring filmmaker, I do love the sci-fi genre and I hope to make stuff in that genre in the future. And it's cool to see that, yeah, they really pull together. And I watched some of their behind the scenes stuff that I could find on their YouTube. And so Strathy Film, they have a few good videos. I watched the behind the scenes of Dark Encounter and then the Solace. I really like their behind the scenes. Like, it's very high quality behind the scenes, even though it's like a kind of lower budget film. It's cool to see how they're trying to pull off all the stuff that they do, because in the film, you can tell that it's lower budget just by the way the film looks. And it's all about like these aliens that are very like, it's a bunch of lights coming in, and it's it's set in a house, and the house, like the windows with the blinds and the lights coming through that, it works well enough for the spectacle, but it's very clearly like stage lights coming through. And it is set at night, the film, a lot of it. And you can tell that for nighttime scenes, when you're filmmaking, that when you're shooting for night, you definitely still need a bit of light, like just to catch something on camera and have it like high quality enough and not terribly grainy from just the darkness. You need enough light, and you can tell that the light beaming in from the nighttime exterior is way like more powerful than it really should have been. Actually, the whole film is actually on YouTube, on this Sci-Fi Central channel. It's still nice to see like the lower budget filmmaking tactics that they're using, because yeah, they are really trying to pull off some of these tricks more physically rather than artificially with CGI. And the part about the behind the scenes that I really, really liked was when they were showing how they did the UFOs and the lights in the sky, because they attached lights to a drone and they just flew that up, and it looks really, really cool. I really did like this behind the scenes video. Would highly, highly recommend it. Just like, yeah, some of the techniques that they use, and even their other one for Solace that I haven't seen, some of the techniques they used looked really, really cool as well. But alas, so for like a quick spoiler-free review of Dark Encounter, it's not the best sci-fi movie I've ever seen, but I will watch like any low-budget sci-fi movie out there just because I love just analyzing and watching unique and cool sci-fi ideas. And I think that this one definitely had a lot of heart to it, which was nice to see. I think that as I was watching the film, of course, I said some of like the actual production design flaws that they had with the lighting felt very forced at times. And I think throughout the plot, they were very clearly following you don't see the aliens very much at first. It's very classical structure of like an alien type movie, or yeah, like a Close Encounters of the Third Kind, lights in the sky kind of thing. It follows that structure very rigidly, where all the reveals come in moments that you expect. But I think the actual twist at the very end of the film did work very well. I won't spoil that one right now. I might talk about it a bit later. With this movie, it was not very long. It's only 97 minutes long, but it felt longer, but not in a good way. It felt like scenes were stretched out. At the beginning, yeah, you have them all just having the conversation, blah, blah, blah. It's the 1 year anniversary of the daughter going missing. That's like in the first, 15 minutes of the movie. And then after that, as this initial supernatural stuff is happening, it feels like that sequence of them like discovering the supernatural entities, it stretches on for so long. And it's like, yes, it is a central part of the film, but just that plot point of the reveal and the mystery around it and nothing new gets added, it feels like that happens for like a whole 45 minutes. And that's a really big chunk of this movie that's only 97 minutes long. A lot of like them in the house just like looking out the windows. And I think a gripe that I had with the film was like in those sequences, it felt like they were just a lot of unnecessary beats because it cuts from like different groups in different parts of the house pretty often. Sometimes the things they're doing just seem unnecessary. Maybe you'll have like one shot of just somebody watching and then like the light does whatever cool move outside the window, or like you see a shadow outside the window or something like that. And it feels like it just went from pretty needless events of that happening pretty repetitively. There were some that were definitely more important than others, but it did feel like that middle sequence just lasted for quite a long time. But in general, I think that if you're looking for a unique sci-fi film with the ending that actually really did surprise me, and it made me like the film a bit more just because of how more thought-provoking it could be. I think that sci-fi in general, sci-fi is really about humans and using the sci-fi elements to elevate human emotions and human characteristics, or just the real physical world that we live in, and that's the best kind of sci-fi. And I think that the fact that this film uses the sci-fi elements of just, oh, aliens coming down, and connects it back to a real human event, I'll say, in this film worked well for me. And I really dug that. So that was nice to see. The last thing I wanted to say was that the characters and the performances are fine. Just fine. They're just what they need to be for this film. I think that some of the characters can be a little caricature-ish. It's like you have the deadbeat dad, and you have the teenager who doesn't really care about the world right now, has his headphones on. And a lot of the characters did feel pretty straightforward, rural family in this kind of movie. I think that's, I forget who exactly it was. It was the sheriff guy. The sheriff guy with the cool mustache. He was great. I really liked his performance. But overall, I think, yeah, the performances were pretty, like, I don't want to say typical, but it's kind of what you expect from a lower budget supernatural encounter. Just like the awe of their performances felt very performative. But small gripes. In general, like, it's the kind of sci-fi movie where it's like, I respect the premise and the execution was done well enough that, yeah, I would totally watch this again and recommend it to other people. So, yeah, I think I initially had it at like a 3-star, but then I was like, you know what? I just respect the craft of it a lot, and I like the ideas behind it, so I bumped it up a little. So, for a few spoiler talks, if you haven't seen the movie and you actually care about what's happening in this film, yeah, tune out. It's fine. I don't care if you leave. That's all good. But if you just want to hear me talk a bit about what actually happens in this film, hey, feel free to stick around. So, as I said before, so you have the plot of a little girl. She goes missing on the night, I believe, of like a storm. And then it's 1 year later, and they just went out to some like memorial for her. 1 year missing, maybe she's still out there, but some people are like, all right, maybe it's time to move on. The dad's like, no, it's causing relationship issues, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then right when they go outside, because the dad, he saw some lights in the sky, of course, and he's going to go drive out, but everyone's like, oh, he's not. He's going a little crazy because his daughter was missing. So they all go out with him, all the lads, all the guys. And they go out into the forest. And that sequence started off really, really well. But it was kind of like the kickstart to the really, really long sequence of them just like their first contact with the aliens and them just in the house. So they go out to the forest and look around. And then they finally have that, like you saw in the behind the scenes that I just showed, the light in the forest just like going up in the sky. The yellow orb of light is going up. The foggy forest, which was nice. Fog machines just make everything look better. It's true. That stuff was good. And I really liked the little detail about the sheriff guy with the mustache when he was standing there shocked. And you think that he's standing there shocked, but then it's revealed later that he's getting a flashback. It's like these aliens are like just implanting this flashback in him, where that was the place where he, spoilers, major spoilers now, he was the one in the end who actually went into the house when the parents were away, and he allegedly raped the girl and then took her body and buried it. And so it was showing him a flashback of him carrying the body through the forest there. And he was just watching that, realizing that, oh gosh, are these aliens like somehow going to reveal this dark secret that I've had this whole time. As that whole scene is going on, one of them disappears. I think it was like one of the uncles disappears in the forest. And then they all go back to the house. And then they get into the house and everybody's looking around. They're like, oh, is somebody outside? And then the lights start to go off. And then like the scene where the lights are just going absolutely crazy. It's like, I don't get why that happened. Because in the end, you establish that these aliens are kind of like helpers in a way, that they're helping all of these humans grieve this loss and like let them know what actually happened and give them some resolution to that. Why were they going crazy? Maybe they're going crazy just because like the humans were hiding from them and the humans were being very protective and aggressive, something like that. Also, when the aliens were going crazy with the light show and everything, it just looked like people were just flipping on different color LEDs. Alas. So, like I said before, that sequence inside the house, as people are kind of getting picked off one by one, lasted for quite some time. And it's, them just walking around slowly with a gun or an axe or a baseball bat. I liked the part of her looking in the knife up the chimney. That was cool. The knives getting thrown on the wall. I don't know why that happened. That whole scene in the middle left a sour taste in my mouth. And I was like, okay, this movie is kind of just like relying on this alien counter and just like using these lights. That's going to be the shtick the whole time, blah, blah, blah. The last three remaining are the two younger ones and the mom. They're in the bedroom of the kidnapped daughter, and the alien finally shows himself. And it's actually just like this green, like humanoid alien thing. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And I kind of dug it. It was like, I thought these lights were just going to be their entire alien presence. There wasn't going to be any actual like physical aliens that come and hang out with them. But the alien touches her face, and then she's transported into the pretty much the upside down. Let's be real. She just gets teleported to the upside down. And in the upside down, she gets shown the flashbacks of what really happened by looking through windows that look back into the house and show her flashbacks of what actually happened. And it was cool visually. It was cool visually. It was a cool way of telling the story and getting her that information. When that was happening, and you have that whole like universe thing where it's like panning out from the galaxy, I love that. I could watch that for a long time. Just like showing the scale of the universe. I really dug that. I really did like that twist of the sheriff guy being the actual kidnapper. I liked the twist that these aliens were there to help them resolve this situation, and that the aliens being is just so much more complex. It's like whenever we think we're going to find supernatural or just alien life, that it'll be carbon-based physical life forms. But like there could be life in like just such different forms, and this one kind of gives it a take. It makes me think like they're living in a different dimension, and so they're like physical cells of like light, or just like the green alien blob. They're just capable of so much different things. And like in the behind the scenes thing, I know one of the producers, or maybe it was the director, was saying that he sees these aliens as helpers who don't understand why human conflict is happening, and they're just to help in like the way that they can, not knowing that it could be deemed as aggressive or weird to the humans. And so just the whole supernatural element of them being from a different dimension, and just like the universe, them being more one with the universe and stuff. It just pulled it all together, I think. I really, really did dig that. And when she opened the door and just sees the universe, I don't really know what I have to say about this point. It was just crazy. The ending of this film was tied up very well, and them going to search for the daughter, and that other sheriff dude was pretty cool. And like when they ran out into the street, this is maybe like 3/4 of the way through the film, maybe a bit less than that. When the mother, the son, and the other younger guy ran out into the street, out from the house after all the light spectacles happening, and then the police find them, and then they go to the police station the next morning, and everybody actually did see those lights. I thought it was just going to be isolated to the cabin, but it was actually everybody really did see these lights, and the whole sheriff's office, the police station, was just overrun with people being like, yeah, these lights are crazy, what's happening? And were the lights just there to help with this one isolated situation, or were they like helping the entire town? I don't know. There's just like the nature of these aliens is something cool to think about. And that's what I wanted with an indie sci-fi movie. A cool thing. My favorite genre, as I say, is cool concept. That's my favorite genre. Just like give me a cool concept that I can think about and digest. And I think if it was just lights in the sky, it would be like, okay, I've seen that before. But yeah, this idea of these aliens just having their own agenda was pretty cool to see. And I related it to like, there was this short story that I recently read. I had a book of just sci-fi short stories from the 50s. And it was this short story of there was these aliens in the sky, and they the way they described them were like funnels and lights, just like the way they just interacted in the sky was like jumping between just like light funnel weirdness. And just like the nature of aliens in media is, a lot of people just think like, oh, you know, like Mars, green aliens, blah, 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 whatever. But I really like it when people use the alien idea as a different type of life form rather than just humanoid or carbon based or something like that. It's kind of like an Annihilation. I really did that. The green alien in this was so much like the Annihilation alien. And I think there is a lot of similarities to be said. Oh, wow. It even has a green tint to it. Wow. Okay. Is a lot of similarities to be said with the supernatural elements in Annihilation, because that one's all about like adaptation and growth, and just like this alien area isn't exactly about harming people, but just about environment and making everything together as oneness, which is more constructive way of thinking of it than aliens just like being there to destroy things. And so yeah, I definitely do think it might have borrowed some ideas from that, but in general, I really dug the ideas that this movie presented. Would recommend it to anybody if you like any sci-fi movies. And hey, yeah, I'm very happy that I watched it. For next week is Halloween, and I've never seen Halloween.